New Zealand is taking significant steps towards closing the gender pay gap, with the government proposing mandatory reporting for large employers. Starting in 2027, companies with over 250 employees will need to disclose gender pay gaps, potentially expanding this requirement to smaller businesses in subsequent years. As of late this year, women earn on average 8.2% less than men for similar work. For Māori and Pasifika women, the disparities are significantly larger. Every $1, say, a Pākehā man makes, a Māori woman makes 81 cents, a Pasifika woman even less, 79 cents. And the government has also introduced initiatives with the Gender Pay Gap Calculator that was launched last month. Now, this is to help businesses identify and address pay disparities. It includes tools for calculating gaps and creating action plans. And finally, the Employment Relations Employee Remuneration Disclosure Amendment Bill, it's always a mouthful, is now under review. It's passed its first reading last month, and submissions are open until the end of next month. It aims to expose and address pay inequities, and if passed, will enhance pay transparency by prohibiting confidentiality clauses that restrict employees from discussing their salaries. So, few things on the boil. Jo Cribb is the co-founder of Mind the Gap and a gender pay equality advocate. She supports the moves to uncover hidden biases and discrimination in workplaces, and she joins me now. Jo, a very good afternoon to you.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Leah. I am a confessed pay gap geek, so I can think of nothing better than having a chat with you about this.
Oh, nice. Oh, I love that. You've shared before that you've experienced gender pay inequality in your career. Can you tell us what happened in your case?
Yeah, really happy to. And unfortunately, I'd like to say that, it was a one-off and, I'm the only one in the country that's experienced that. But the more, having worked in this space for nearly 10 years, I think so many women have got a story about how their pay was never quite, their pay wasn't quite right. So my experience is that I was invited to act up into a management role, and I was given a percentage allowance for acting up, and then was just actually confirmed in the role. And the salary that I was offered was that salary, so my junior salary plus a percentage increment. And then so over the time of that job, over 3 or 4 years, I performed and I got increments as I went. But when I left the job, the rate and the band that it was advertised with was hugely, substantially different to what I'd been paid. So basically I'd been paid completely under a grade, and it makes you feel pretty angry, actually. And this was the public service. It should be fair. My boss knew this because he was, this was quite a senior role, and he had his leadership team. He would have been seeing that I was being paid substantially less than my male colleagues, but never chose to address that. And it's not until you find out, right? So I just assumed I'd be paid fairly. So it's this transparency piece. Now, I do just wonder how many women or our Māori or Pacific colleagues are actually being underpaid, but we don't know because it all happens in the darkness, like in the back of a wardrobe, like mould, right?
Hey, I just said in the intro about women earning on average 8.2% less than men for the same work. This means every dollar, women like you, me, producer Kelly, we're only making 82 cents in that dollar.
Yes, so, and we're actually working. If you work it out, we're working for free now. So if you take
I mentioned that at the beginning of the show, and I said, I thought I saw last week someone was saying, and now to the end of the year, is that women are working for free? Is that right?
We're totally turning up at work, and we are working for free. But some of us started working for free a long time ago. So a Pacifica woman started months ago because she earns 75 cents to the dollar. So she's been doing, she's been pulling a huge load for us for nothing for a very long, for a long time. But the whole entire population of New Zealand's women is, because our national gender pay gap is about just under 9%, and it's 9% of the year to go. We are volunteering in our role.
Volunteering, Joe. I'm doing this for love, not money.
Yeah,
And
Ellie, you're
I
doing it for love.
appreciate you
Yeah.
coming on for doing it for love for me. Hey, but why? And seriously, why? Look, I know about this. I've talked about the pay gap existing. I don't know if anyone's really clearly explained why it is. Is this systemic? Is it just it's happened for decades and we've never really thought about it? I mean, why does this happen?
Yeah, I think it's a really great question, and there's been quite a lot of research into that question. So if you think about, I know this is a long time ago, so in 1972, we passed a law that said if two people are doing the same job, you can't pay them differently. Now that just seems like, if we think about it through a 2024 lens, that just makes sense, right? If somebody is doing the same work and they're being paid to do the same job, you pay them the same. But before that, there was men and women's rates, particularly in the public service. So you could do the same job and quite legitimately be paid the woman's rate for it. So in some ways, 50 years ago, that was quite a real revolution to go actually equal pay for equal work. But actually, I don't think we've got there 50 years later. When I work with organisations and we have a look at their pay, they often have 2 or 3% out. So that means they are actually paying people doing the same job different rates. And you can hold, and people you say, but they'll be different. They'll have different experience, or they'll have, different qualifications, or they might be doing the job and performing better. But what the research has done is they've held that all constant. So even in the really interesting piece of research looked at what were the causes of gender pay gap in New Zealand. So they said, let's take out education levels, let's take out age, let's take out even industry, let's take out levels of, management or wherever you are. So hold all the constants that describe a worker and see how we can explain the gender pay gap. So 20 years ago, we would have said, actually, there were less women with tertiary qualifications, so there probably are less women in senior jobs. We could kind of live with it. Today, it's the opposite, actually. More women are tertiary qualified and more women are working in more and more senior roles. So what is it that explains the gender pay gap? And the research over the last couple of years has said the only thing we can really explain it by is the decisions that are made about pay in organisations. So it's bosses making decisions about who they value and who they don't, and all those kind of things as well. There is some, I guess, that women, particularly if they're having time off for children, they often lose their salary increments, and they often come back at a lower level and perhaps at a slower level. We may have more women work part-time, and you actually pay a tax for working part-time. So you're going to, regardless of your salary and your experience and your performance, we know that you'll get paid about 10% less than your colleagues because you, say, don't work a Friday. So all these kind of things just add up, if that makes sense.
No, it does.
To the fact that we actually have a whole lot of, I guess, conscious and unconscious bias or policies, or just, we can't explain it by I guess, by women's characteristics. We are tertiary educated. We're in the roles.
No, I think this is interesting because I think it's like an unconscious bias. But if if you've got a manager, and that I've seen this happen where they, for some reason, they may get on with someone better in the group, right? And
totally.
Who's working for them. They hit it off. Don't know what it is, but that person that they really have hit it off with, you will see them go up faster through the ranks.
Yes, they will get promoted,
and they'll get promoted, they get opportunities,
kind of
they get more money.
Totally.
It's almost like this, it's because you're my mate. It's not all the time, but I have seen it a lot. Not all the time, I've seen it a lot.